Namaskar Elrigu. Dear students, today let us learn a very important topic, that is powers and functions of parliament. So in this you will be getting many questions here. Only on this topic so many questions are asked. List the functions and powers of parliament, or write the powers of union legislature, explain the powers of Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, describe the functions of parliament. So when this is asked, so you have to answer the same answer, okay? Next, on this topic, some terms are used, very important terms. On those also some questions are asked here. Differentiate between bill and act. Explain the procedure to make a bill in parliament, or what are the procedure followed in parliament in making a law. Explain the federalism in the Indian constitution, or describe briefly about division of powers, that is in union list, state list and concurrent list. Explain the concept of question hour, and also explain the concept of zero hour. So these are some terms which are used, which comes in this topic. So let us study a very important topic today, dear students. Okay, what are the powers and functions of parliament? You can see the picture of the parliament here. So there are many powers and functions of parliament. Out of them, very important powers and functions are listed here. First one, legislative power. Second one, financial control. Third one, administrative control. Fourth one, constituent powers. Fifth one, authority to secure information. Sixth one, conflict resolution and national integration. Seventh one, electoral functions. Eighth, judicial functions. Ninth, training the leaders. Okay, let us study them in detail, one by one. Okay, the first power is legislative power. What it actually means. In a parliamentary democracy, parliament plays a vital role in legislation or making laws. So legislative means making laws. Laws are necessary to maintain peace, law and order in the country. So why the laws are made? To maintain mainly peace, law and order in the country. And also to bring efficiency in administration and to bring about social and economical changes. And in order to achieve the objectives of the welfare state, so that is the important objective of our country for the constitution, to have the welfare state, the legislative powers are very important for the legislative assembly. Parliament is vested with the powers of making laws on the subjects mentioned in the union list and concurrent list, state list and under residual powers. So on some subjects the parliament is going to make certain laws. So what are these lists, what are these subjects? Let us study them in detail afterwards. Okay, second function of the parliament is financial control. What is financial control? Actually, the parliament establishes the control over the public finance. So it has a full control on the public finance. It discusses estimates of receipts and expenditure of the government. Mainly in the parliament, what is discussed? What is the income, receipts and expenditures. Okay, so those are discussed. And it is popularly termed as budget. So what is the budget? Budget is the statement of estimated income and the expenditure for that year. So for the 1 year, what is the estimated income and what is the expenditure is defined in the budget. And this is presented by the finance minister with the permission of the president. So this is very important here. It has the powers to impose or change taxes and voting of grants if the budget is not passed in the parliament due to certain circumstances. The consolidated fund is used. So here you can see this, the consolidated fund is only when used when the budget is not passed, okay, in certain circumstances. So what is the consolidated fund? It is the main bank account of the government of India. So the main bank account of the government of India is called as a consolidated fund, and from this the amount can be drawn only when there is no budget passed from the parliament due to some circumstances. Parliament authorizes the executive to draw the funds from the consolidated fund. So from the consolidated fund, who can draw the amount? The amount can be drawn only from the authorized executive members who are actually given the permission from the parliament. No taxes are levied and no expenditure is incurred from the public funds. So levied means raised. So taxes cannot be raised and taxes cannot be changed without the permission of the parliament. Okay. And in addition to the general budget, the railway budget is also discussed and passed by the parliament. So when the budget is to be passed, with that the railway budget is also discussed and passed at the same time. In the matters of money bills, the Lok Sabha has the greater control and authority. This is a very important point to be noted. So we have seen in the parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both will come, but on the money matter, on the financial control, the Lok Sabha is having the full control, that is greater control and authority. Okay, the recommendations of Rajya Sabha or money bills are not bound to be followed by the Lok Sabha. The Rajya Sabha can recommend certain bills, but it is not that it should be followed from the Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha decision is the final one. That is why it is having the greater control and authority over the budget or over the financial control. Okay, so as you can see here, the Nirmala Sitharaman is the present financial minister, and this finance minister is going to pass the budget with the permission, discuss the budget in the parliament with the permission of the president. Okay. Okay, the next important power is administrative control. Here, the government actually shares the responsibility of administration with the parliament. And how the government is formed? The party or the parties that are supported by the more than half of the members of Lok Sabha form the government. So presently, the Lok Sabha members are 545. So half of the Lok Sabha member becomes nearly 273. So who is having the majority? More than 273. So that party forms the government. So the leader of the majority party becomes the prime minister. So presently the BJP is having the majority and it is the government. So the leader of the present government which is having the majority becomes the prime minister. So present prime minister is Narendra Modi, and the prime minister is having the real executive power. The real executive power is with the prime minister and the council of ministers. So the prime minister is supported by a council of ministers. So what the council of ministers means? The council of ministers are usually composed of those ministers who are responsible for the ministry and are usually led by the prime minister. These ministers exercise executive authority in the Republic of India. It consists of senior ministers called cabinet ministers, junior ministers called ministers of state, and rarely deputy ministers. So this is about the Council of Ministers. And these Council of Ministers are drawn from the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. A person who is not a member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha can also be appointed as a minister, but in certain cases. How? By they are elected to either of the houses in the next 6 months. So if the person has to become a minister, they must be a member of a Lok Sabha or a Rajya Sabha. Suppose if they are not a member of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, in that case they can also be appointed as a minister, but only on which condition? So they should be elected to either of the houses in the next 6 months. The Council of Ministers holding different portfolios are responsible to the Parliament. So what is the portfolio? Portfolio is nothing but it is the department. Portfolio is departments. The departments, you know what are those? Home Minister department, Defense Department, Education, Finance Department. So for different departments, the ministers will be assigned. Okay, so that we call it as a portfolio. So the Council of Ministers holding the different portfolios means holding the different departments are responsible to the Parliament. They govern on behalf of the Parliament. So they are having the executive power. They are going to rule the government. So on behalf of Parliament. The Council of Ministers as an executive body starts and creates legislative and financial proposals. So mainly these Council of Ministers have the power of doing the making laws. Legislative power we have studied, and also they have the control over the financial matters, financial proposals. But it is the president, it is the parliament that approves and gives effect to those proposals. So whenever the proposal is given by the council of ministers, then for those proposals the parliament has to give the approve, so that by discussion in the parliament. Parliament not only makes law but also oversees the implementation of laws. So we have seen that only the parliament members can make the law. They are having the legislative power. So parliament also looks at the implementation of law. Only it not only makes the law, it implements, executes the law. It has the powers to raise the question, seek answers and information from the Council of Ministers through debates, discussions and questions. So how the Council of Ministers are checked whether they are properly working or not? Okay, that is done by raising the questions, to seek the answers and to get the information by asking the questions to the particular minister of that department. They are going to get the information. So this is done by using the debates or group discussions or by questioning. Okay. Parliament can remove the government from power through a no confidence motion. So no confidence motion means it is a motion done by the opposite party when there is a no confidence on a present government, ruling government, and if it is passed, then that government can be removed from the power. So this motion is called as a no confidence motion. So let us study it in detail afterwards. And by moving a censure motion, it can remove the ministers or the entire council of ministers from the power. So censure motion is also similar to no confidence motion. It has got certain difference. Here it can remove the ministers or the entire council of ministers from the power. Next, Parliament advises the Cabinet on several issues and rectifies the errors. So, Cabinet ministers are also takes the advice from the Parliament members, and in some cases, several cases, and also if there are any discrepancies, if there are any deficiencies, if there are any errors, they should be corrected from the Cabinet ministers. So the decisions and functions are made in the sessions by certain discussions, and that is done in the parliament. So these are all very important functions of the parliament which comes under the administrative control. Okay, the next power is fourth one, constituent powers. So what actually it means? Parliament has the powers to change the provisions of the constitution. So already some provisions are made in the constitution. Suppose in certain situations, if the provisions has to be changed in the constitution, if there are certain changes to be made for the provisions, then who is having the power? The parliament is having the power to change the provisions of the constitution. So that is called as a constituent powers. Okay, how it is done? The amendments have to be initialized either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. So amendments means change to be made. So the change is known as the amendment here. So how it is to be initialized? It is initialized either in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And the House later discusses and debates over the proposed amendments. Suppose if there should be any changes to be made in any of the provision. So first it should be the proposal should be given either in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. Then it is discussed and debated over that matter or that proposal before passing the bill with 2/3 of majority present and voting. So if the amendment is having the majority, that 2/3 of the majority present, okay, and voting is made, if the voting is made, if there is a 2/3 of majority present, then only that amendment can be passed, that bill can be passed. The same procedure is repeated in the other house before sending it to the president. So if it is passed in the Lok Sabha, then it should be given to the Rajya Sabha, and if it is passed in the Rajya Sabha with a 2/3 majority present and voting, then it is sent to the president for his or her assent, for the permission. The approval of both the houses of the parliament is needed to amend the constitution. So whenever the amendment has to be made, then there must be approval from both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. In certain cases of amendments, the agreement of the states is also required. So for certain provisions, so in that case, the agreement of the state, that is MLAs of different states, they also give their voting. They have to give the agreement for the change. So this is how the some provisions of the constitutions are changed. So this power is called as a constituent power. Okay, the next power is authority to secure the information. So what actually it means? Parliament has the power to ask for the information what it needs. So it will ask to the government who is ruling for the information. So it is the duty of the government to provide the information precisely within the specified time. That is very important. The government has to give the information whenever the information is asked from the parliament members. At certain time, Parliament gets detailed information about the functioning of the certain departments from the government by demanding a white paper. So here, what is the white paper here? So white paper is detailed report of the functioning of the department or of any particular issue related to the department. So department may be anything. It may be education department, it may be a defense department, home, finance department. From any department, it may ask the question information, then that department is responsible to ask or to give the information about that question. Okay, the information or reports of the government laid on the table of the house becomes public knowledge. So whatever the information is given by the department, that information becomes the it will be the information for the public knowledge. The parliament uses this information for discussion on the floor of the houses. So on that information, the discussions will be made in the parliament during the session. The members of the parliament can get the information from the ministers by asking the questions in the houses of the parliament. So during the sessions you might have seen, so they will asking the question just to get more and more information from the ministers from that department. Okay, the parliamentary committees collect the necessary valuable information from the government departments. So from different departments they will collect the necessary information whenever it is needed, whenever it is required. Okay. Okay, the next power is sixth one, conflict resolution and national integration. What actually this means? The parliament is a representative body of many political parties with different ideologies. So you have seen that in our country, it has many parties. Okay, so Congress, BJP, JDS. So from different parties, the members will be there in the parliament and they will be having the different ideas, different opinions. Okay, the tensions and conflicts are common between the parties in parliament. So you have seen in the sessions so many conflicts will be there, disputes will be there. So that we call it as a conflict, and the tensions and conflicts are common. It is very common in the parliament. Okay. Open debates and discussions on the floor of the house clear suspicion and resolve many of the conflicts. So how the conflicts will arise? Because of the different opinions and different ideas of the different parties. Okay, because of that there will be many tensions in the parliament, and but how it is resolved, how the conflicts are resolved? By open debates and discussions. This is very important. By openly discussing on those matters, the conflicts can be resolved. Okay, the central hall of the parliament house provides an opportunity for all the members to informally meet and discuss. So in the parliament, the members can meet and they will discuss on a certain matters in groups or with individuals, and the problems which are affecting the countries are mainly discussed and they will come to a proper solution for that problem. That process is called as a conflict resolution. Free and informal discussions resolve many of the problems and create a feeling of national integrity. This is very important. So while doing the discussion, so it should be informal discussion and it should be free discussion. Openly they should discuss, and this will actually resolve many of the problems in our country, and this will create a feeling of national integrity. Okay, the next function is seventh one, electoral function. What this electoral function means? Here, the members of parliament together with the members of state legislative assemblies elect the highest executive of the nation, that is the President of India. That means members of parliament is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members, with members of state legislative assembly means MLAs of different states. They all together will elect the highest executive of the nation, that is the President of India. And the members of the two houses of parliament elect the vice president of India. How the vice president of India is elected? By the members of the two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members together will elect the vice president of India. You got the difference? Here for president of India, both Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and state legislative assemblies, MLAs, all together will elect the President of India. But for Vice President of India, only Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members together will elect. Okay. So this power is called as the electoral function power. Next is eighth one, judicial functions. What actually this means? So the parliament is having the judicial functions. It has a role of judiciary in investigating the charges against. So if there are any complaints against the President or Vice President of India and judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts, Chief Election Commissioners, Auditor General and such others. So on these members, if there are any complaints, any charges, so on that the investigation is made by the parliament members. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members are having that power to have the judiciary investigation over these members. Suppose if the charges are proved, if the complaints are against over these members are proved, then the President of India is removed by the process of impeachment. The President can be removed from a process known as a impeachment process, and judges and Supreme Court and High Courts by the process of address. So this process of address is used to remove the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, and impeachment process is used to remove the President of India by the parliament members. So I think it is clear for you. Okay, the next function is training leaders. So what actually it means? Parliament serves as a training institution for political leadership. So the parliament actually works as a training institution for political leadership. Members acquire considerable knowledge and collect information by participating in debates and discussions of parliament, and also by serving in parliamentary committees. So how it helps? The members actually they'll get the considerable knowledge, they'll get the knowledge and collect the information. How? By participating in debates and discussions in the parliament. And also parliament helps the prime minister to identify and to select the capable personalities to serve as a minister. So by looking at the parliament participation of the members, it will help the prime minister to identify and also to select a suitable member who will serve as a minister. Okay, so this is also another function of the important function of the parliament. Okay, till now we have studied the important powers and functions of parliament. On that topic only, some other questions are also asked in the examination. That is, explain the federalism in the Indian Constitution or describe briefly about the division of powers, that is union list, state list, concurrent list. So let us study it in detail. So what is federalism in the Indian Constitution? Article number 1 of Indian Constitution declares that India shall be a union of state. Part 11th of Indian Constitution defines the power distribution between the federal government, that is the center, and the state in India. So here the federalism means the power is shared. The power is shared between the state government and the union government. So this sharing of the power between the state government and union government is called as a federalism. Okay, the power is also divided between the state government and central government in different ways in legislative, administrative and executive powers. Okay, how the division of power is made actually. According to the Indian Constitution, the division of powers is defined in the following ways. In the four ways it is defined. First one union list, second one state list, third one concurrent list, fourth one residual subjects. From this picture, you can see that the central government will be having the power to make the laws on union list. What are the union list? What are the subjects in this? The important list of the union list is defense, banking, currency, foreign affairs, communications. So on these important subjects, the central government can make the law, that is having the power to make the laws. And coming to the state government, so it has got its own list. The state government has the power to make its laws on these subjects, important subjects here: police, trade, agriculture and irrigation. And also we have another list, that is concurrent list, where both central government and state government jointly do the laws, make the laws on certain subjects. See here, both central and state government jointly make laws on these subjects, important subjects here given: education, forest, trade, marriage, adoption and succession. Okay, let us take it in detail. In union list, it consists of 100 items on which the parliament has exclusive power to legislate, and these are very important, are listed here: defense, army, international relations, sports, railways, highways, communication, etc. So like this you will be having 100 items in the union list, where only the central government is having the power to make the laws on these items. State list. The state list consists of 61 items on which the state has exclusive power to legislate. So that means on these 61 items only the state can have the power to make the laws. What are the important subjects listed in these is public order, public health and sanitization, hospitals, dispensaries, betting and gambling, some others are there. Okay. Next comes concurrent list. So in this case, both the parliament and the states will have the power to legislate. So jointly, the state government and central government both can make the laws on certain subjects, certain list. Those are totally 52 items. Some of the important subjects are education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption, succession, etc. Okay, the next fourth one subject is residuary subject. In certain situation in which legislation might be required on matters that are not mentioned in any of the three lists, that is union list, state list and concurrent list, so which are not mentioned in those lists, so those remaining subjects comes under residuary subjects. So this is defined in the Indian Constitution. So the provision has been made for the residual powers in article number 248 of the Indian Constitution over residuary subjects, such as making any law imposing a tax not mentioned in either of these lists. So the imposing of a tax is not mentioned in union list, concurrent list and also in state list. So that subject is taken in the residuary subject. Suppose if there is any difference between the parliament and state legislatures over the matter of residuary subjects, in that case the court can also decide whether a subject matter falls under the residuary subject or any other. Okay. Next, what is the procedure followed in the parliament in making the law? So you can see here that the parliament is having the power to make the law. How the law is made? Law making is a lengthy and complicated process. Actually, it is a complicated process and also lengthy process. A proposal termed as a bill is a draft that undergoes three stages. So, before making the law, the proposal or the draft is known as a bill. Okay, and it has to pass three stages, and those three stages are known also as three readings. Then after passing these three readings, then it becomes a law or an act. Okay, let us study them in detail. In the first reading, the bill is proposed and published in the Gazette and moved in the House. Okay, first it is proposed and published in the Gazette means published in the newspaper, then it is moved in the House, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. In the second reading, what happens? The bill undergoes detailed and minute examination and may be referred to a select committee or a joint committee of the both houses or circulated for the purpose of collecting the public opinion. You can see here the bill is moved to the House, either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. There may be a reference to a select committee to prepare a report on that, and also it may be circulated to collect the public opinion. Next comes third stage. What happens in the third stage? A general discussion takes place and then the bill is put to vote. So the general discussion is made by both Lok Sabha members and Rajya Sabha members. Then it is put for vote. Okay. In the bill, rules and regulations are discussed and debated and scrutinized and voted before being sent to the President for his assent. Assent means for the permission. Okay, so this is done in the third stage. Each house of the parliament has to pass the bill with 2/3 majority. So how the bill is passed? Only when there is a 2/3 majority will vote for that, and then it is sent the president for the approval. Once the president approves the bill, so once the president signs on the bill, then only it becomes a law or an act. Then it comes into effect. So this is the procedure to make a law here. So you can see here that the Gazette is published in the newspaper like this. So this is one example here. So first the bill is introduced and published in the Gazette. So this is the example. And by this picture, you can easily better understand how the law is made. So how the bill is becoming the act. See here in the first house, it may be Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. First house, let me consider Lok Sabha. First reading introduced either in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. No discussions at this stage. So in the first reading, no discussion. In the second reading, what happens? The house may take the bill for discussion, or bill may be referred to a select committee or a joint committee, and that committee examines the bill and reports it back to the house. The house looks at the bill clause by clause. Then each clause is discussed and voted upon separately in the second reading. Then third reading comes. So here the members present in the house vote. Majority of the members present reject the bill is deemed rejected. Sometimes they may reject the bill, majority of them. Otherwise, majority of the members present accept the bill. When the majority people accept the bill, what happens? It is regarded as passed by the house. When the majority is there, then it is regarded as passed by the house. Then after this, it is sent to the other second house. If it is done in Lok Sabha, then it is passed to Rajya Sabha. If it is done in Rajya Sabha, then it is passed back to Lok Sabha. So like that. So in another house, you can see here, in the second house, the three stages are repeated again. The first reading, second reading, third reading. One of these four things can happen here. The bill is rejected. The bill is kept pending. Otherwise, the house suggests, in this case, the bill goes back to the previous house. The next thing may happen is the bill is passed. So these four things may happen. Suppose if the bill is passed, then the bill is presented to the President of India. Okay. The President, what he does, see here. The President withholds his assent. This is the one case that the bill ends and does not becomes an act. Okay. When the President withholds it. Suppose if the President gives his assent, the bill becomes an act. In another case, if the President returns the bill for reconsideration, what happens? The bill goes back to the Parliament. Houses make or do not make the amendments, changes. Bill goes back to the President. Then at this stage, the President must sign or must give his or her assent, then the bill becomes the act. So these pictures will clearly explain you how the law is made in the parliament. Okay, there are certain differences between bill and act. So it is asked in the examination, differentiate between bill and act. Okay, so let us look at this table which will help us to understand the differences between the bill and act. In the act you can see it is a law passed by the parliament, but bill is a draft of a proposed law that is presented to the parliament. In act is called as a bill before it is approved by the parliament. So before it is approved, it is called as a bill. Bill becomes an act after it is passed or approved by the parliament. Act can create a new law or a change an existing law. Bill can propose a new law or change an existing law. In act, it is difficult to change an act once it is implemented. But in bill, it can be changed easily compared to act. So these will tell the differences between bill and act. Okay, next, what is the significance of no confidence motion? So this is also related to powers of parliament only. According to the constitution, a government is eligible to remain in power only if it has the required numbers for majority. So if it has a majority only, then it is eligible to remain in the power for the government. Article number 75 of India's constitution lays the provision that the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. So who is responsible for Lok Sabha? The Council of Ministers are responsible. The rules of Lok Sabha has a mechanism called no confidence motion to test the collective responsibility. So this collective responsibility is tested by using a no confidence motion. Okay. So according to the rules, a Lok Sabha MP needs to garner the 50 lawmakers to introduce a no confidence motion against the government. That is, the opposite party. Will move this motion only when it requires 50 members, 50 lawmakers, that is MPs, are required to introduce the no confidence motion against the government. If the motion carries, suppose the motion carries, the House debates and votes in favor of the motion. Suppose if it is in favor of motion, then what happens? See here, the head of the state must respond in one of the two ways. Head of the state means president. So what he does? The president asks the another individual who he believes will command the confidence of parliament to try to form a government as per the law of constitution. So he may call the individual who he believes to command the confidence of the parliament and to form the government, try to form the government. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, if that person fails, in that case, the president dissolve the elected parliament and then call a general election to elect the parliament as per the law of the parliament. So then re-election takes place. After that, the new government will be formed. So this is the significance of no confidence motion. So if we look at the history, we can see that many no confidence motions were moved against the ruling government. So we can see here the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi faced the most no confidence motions, that is 15 times. Then followed by Lal Bahadur Shastri and PV Narasimha Rao, 3 each. Morarji Desai 2 times, and Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Narendra Modi, they have faced 1 time the no confidence motion. And also you can see the significant no confidence motions here. Vajpayee lost the no confidence motion by a margin of only 1 vote in the year 1999. So on that the government actually lost, then they went for the re-election afterwards. So this is the significance of the no confidence motion. Okay, some other motions also we get these terms we get in the parliament. So let us understand by the help of this table. That is adjournment motion, no confidence motion and censure motion. What is adjournment motion? This motion is moved to discuss a definite matter of urgent public importance. So whenever the public important matter is there, very urgent matter is there, then this motion is taken. This motion, when admitted, a regular business of house is interrupted. So regular routine is interrupted only when there is a urgent matter is to be discussed. The matter must be definite, factual, urgent and of a public importance. Mainly it should be of a public importance. Then only it can be taken. When the motion is moved, at least 50 members are required to support it. Only then it is admitted. So for this motion, minimum 50 members has to support. That is MPs in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Then only this motion can take place. Now, no confidence motion. So we have already studied this. It is brought to test the strength, the majority of the government in Lok Sabha, to check the majority whether there is a confidence in the ruling government or not. So that is checked by the majority. No reason needs to be given to initiate this motion. So for this, the reason is not required. But when the motion is moved, at least 50 members are required to support it. So to move this motion, minimum 50 members has to support, then only this motion can be taken. Next, censure motion. It is brought to censure the government for a certain policies or actions. Okay. So specific reason needs to be given to initiate this motion. So this is very important. So this is also similar to no confidence motion, but here it is brought to censure the government for certain policies and actions, and also it is taken against the individual minister or the entire council of minister, but it requires some reason, specific reason to initiate this motion. So from this table, I think these terms are clear for you students. Okay, now let us look at what happens in the parliament. Okay, so see here from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The government will have the question hour. The parliament will have the question hour where the questions are asked during this period. Next, from 12 to 1, that is called as a 0 hour. So during this period, the questions are asked. Very important matters are taken at this period. So let us study it in detail later. Then from 1 to 2 p.m. there will be a lunch break. Then after 2 to 5, the Rajya Sabha will work till 5 o'clock, and from 2 to 6 the Lok Sabha will work. So during this period the government will make the laws or pass the budget. So this is how the parliament functions. So that timetable is given here. Okay, let us study first what is the concept of question hour. Okay, so this is asked as explain the concept of question hour. Generally the first hour, that is from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. what we saw in the picture of sitting a Lok Sabha is devoted to questions, and that hour is called as a question hour. So during this hour, question hour, the questions are asked. It has a special significance in the proceeding of the parliament. It has its own significance. What it is? In this hour, the members of parliament, mainly from opposition party, so opposite party members will ask the questions to the ministers of the government on every aspect of administration and government activity. So on administration or on government activity, the opposite party will ask the questions to the ruling party. Government policies in national as well as international levels come into sharp focus. So the questions will be asked on policies in the national and also international levels made. Okay, so this will draw out the related information during the question hour. So mainly the members will try to collect the related information during this question hour. Next, the question hour is an interesting part of the parliamentary proceedings. So this is a very interesting part. Every minister whose turn it is to answer the question has to stand up and answer. So to whom the question is asked, to which minister the question is asked, so that minister has to stand up and answer for that question. Although the question is asked to seek the information, sometimes questions and answers are filled with humor. So usually the questions and answers. The questions is asked from the opposite party and the answers are given from the ruling party. Sometimes it may lead to humor, that is entertainment. So that is why the public galleries and press galleries are totally packed to the maximum capacity during the question hour. Okay, next, what is the concept of 0 hour? And explain the concept of question hour is asked in the examination. Normally, 0 hour gives the place of raising important and current affairs. So during this 0 hour, what is asked? Very important and current affairs questions are asked. Question hour is to ask questions in the parliament, but 0 hour is to negotiate and mutual benefits and what questions can be asked. So that is the main difference. It is the time which begins at 12 o'clock. So it exactly starts at 12 o'clock. That is why it is called as a concept of 0 hour. After the question hour, that is from 11 to 12, the question hour will be there. So after question hour, the 0 hour will start. 0 hour is taken at exactly 12 o'clock. 0 hour may not last for an hour. It may last for some time, which may be half an hour or more or less. So it may not take full 1 hour, it may be less and or sometimes it may be more. Sometimes it may occupy full 1 hour or may extend beyond the hour depending on the matter. So if the matter is very serious, then it may take more than 1 hour also. It is also not necessary that there would be a 0 hour for every day during the session. So every day it need not have to have a 0 hour. So depending upon the matter, if it is very important, if it is of a critical matter, in that case there will be a 0 hour. So these are important points regarding the 0 hour. I think it is very clear to you students. Till now we studied very important functions and powers of parliament. On that, the important questions which are asked in the examination we studied in detail. I think it is very clear to you dear students. Let us stop it here. Thank you.